Well, good morning. I was asked to kind of give you a brief overview of the pathways work we're doing at Grayson College. And about 16, 17 minutes, and then we'll have some Q&A if you need it. The biggest thing I hope you get out of this is just obviously a general understanding and maybe see some points of interest where you can dive deeper in your respective areas, okay? So pathways, I mean, this has been an ongoing process at the college for, as the president said, at least 3 years. And even way before it was a buzzword by higher education, the uppity-ups. Grayson College has been doing this work for quite some time. And so what pushed Grayson College to get involved in this work? Well, from college-wide discussions, he mentioned this, it became very apparent we need to do a lot of work on our structured curriculum pathways that impact how our students approach their time to degree. And he mentioned some numbers, but we started out with students earning about anywhere from 91 to 92 credit hours to earn their degree, with a 4+ year time span to get that degree. Now, we've done good work to reduce that, like he said, to 88 hours. And about a 4.3 year increase. So we reduced credit hours, we've actually increased the time they're here. So there's a lot of work to do there to help our students get out of a 2-year institution. So we've got a lot of things to tackle. Well, how are we doing this? Well, beginning of the 2015-16 academic year, the college refined its strategic plan around one central goal that the president mentioned, 2020 by 2020, which means 2020 completers, including degrees, certificates, marketable skill awards, core, our general education completion certificates, by the year 2020. And why that's such a huge lift is that's about a 50% increase. And that's impressive. Now, he also mentioned we've got 4 pillars that work to undergird this and support this big goal for the college, which is access, success, engagement, and excellence. Now, each pillar has targets, and you saw a few of those. So yes, access, more students coming in the front door. Success, let's get them out of here on time. Things of that nature. We also identified 4 lenses he mentioned. The online quality, pathways, course completions, and in these others he's mentioning here. Now, I forgot one. It's which one was it? Communication. The one we do so much with, but we get some of the biggest criticisms of, right? So maybe we can have some good ideas how to clarify that today. Well, anyway, there are a lot of incarnations with pathways. Now, this is a new topic nationwide, and as each college adopts pathways at their institutions, what you're going to see are more and more and more incarnations of pathways. What we have to remember is pathways are unique to each individual university and college, right? Now, there are some things that are going to be common to all schools, and I've listed them up here for you. Clear roadmaps to student end goals. In other words, let's give them structured pathways, tell them what they need to take in the sequence they need to take it to get out on time. On-ramps to programs of study, that's things of like, PLA, dual credit, our CWL friends, how do we get students into the pipeline? When they fall out, where can they get back on without losing credits? And then embedded advising, progress tracking, giving students a lot of early touch and consistent touches of, hey, how you doing? How can we help you? And things of that nature. So acknowledging this work, acknowledging the work that our college needs to do. In 2015, a Pathways Task Force was created with key policy administrators, faculty, and staff to address the implementation of structurally guided pathways. This task force was charged with reviewing and implementing our pathways at the college and investigating best practices that were related to student success. However, this task force has now been dissolved, and it's been replaced by a much more focused group associated with the Texas Pathways Project, of which Grayson College is a Cadre 1 team member joining 11 other institutions in the state of Texas, looking at what they're doing at their colleges and what's working and what's not working, to help us to develop ideas and initiatives to roll out at Grayson College to help our students. And I've listed just a few here that we're looking at, okay? There are many more, and these are just some highlights. So that first one, tightening our pathways. Well, that's the one that most people associate with pathways work. And that's a heavy lift. This is our advisors working with our faculty and program leads to look at what are you telling students to take and when are you telling them to take it and how does that impact other programs of study. And this will be a consistent, every year type of a project that we approach and work with. Working to generate interventions to assist our students. That's anything we can come up with that we might think can help students get to their end goals. And I think, by the way, I think we're doing really good work with that. And hopefully that will evolve as well. Our faculty advising coaching program, we've been talking about that for a long time. It's not ready yet. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I suspect it's coming. And at universities and colleges that utilize that, we see tremendous success with our students. I've got chairs in my world. I know Steve's doing the same thing, working on year-long, 2-year-long schedules to try to work with our full-time student plans of study, our part-time students' plans of study, and even our evening students' plans of study. That's hard work because up to this point, we've never really had a way for our chairs to get a macro view of how our students enroll and how that impacts students at the college. And Anderson is doing some really good work right now trying to develop a program to where chairs can actually, for the first time, visualize this. And I'm really excited about that, and I think we're going to see some improvement in that area. Updating our website to reflect all this crazy work, and of course, working on transfer initiatives, which is, as you know, an ongoing issue for the college. All of these things that are listed up here, and many of the others you might hear today and tomorrow, are trying to drive toward an ultimate goal to decrease the average time to degree, decrease the number of semester credit hours taken, and increase the number of completers at Grayson College. Structured pathways will focus on the development of clearly defined and structured degree certificate pathways. And these pathways will provide students with a streamlined and focused sequence of courses to ensure timely completion of credentials. So we need help. And assisting us in what can only be considered a Herculean task are a lot of agencies out there, such as the American Association of Community Colleges, which in 2011 announced their 21st Century Initiative to educate an additional 5 million students with degrees, certificates, or other credentials by 2020. And AACC was lent support by a lot of other institutions like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, ACT, and many others to drive the importance of this work. Now, what did they do? Well, they went out across the nation over a 2-year period. They investigated and interviewed 1,300 stakeholders. That's colleges, universities, policy administrators in particular institutions, state policymakers, faculty, staff, and of course our students. And they reported out some interesting things, and I'll list a few of them. And I think these will sound familiar to you. So number one, they reported out a need for colleges to re-examine the role, scope, and mission of the community college, the existence of an achievement gap, and the need for scalable, proven practices, the use of data metrics that emphasize transparency, inclusion, and very importantly, accountability, and the need for strategic partnerships with the business world, local communities, K through 12, and of course our baccalaureate institutions. This is work we've been doing for a long time. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is this is great. And these are wonderful institutions, and we've got great partnerships with them. We were doing the work before they wrote a report about it. And that points to the great staff and personnel at Grayson College. Now, AACC fundamentally believes that the American dream is at risk, as highlighted in as recent as their 2016 annual meeting. They argue that an educated population is fundamental to the economic growth and a vibrant democracy, and that community colleges can help reclaim that dream. But stepping up to this challenge will require dramatic redesign of our institutions, our missions, and most critically, our students' experience while they're here at Grayson. But unfortunately, we find ourselves working through these matters in a political environment where education has become a partisan tool, which only makes our work that much harder. So these demands, and many like them in academics, are what are driving our state and federal agencies to put more and more pressure on our colleges to do more with less. Thus, if we're going to survive and continue to provide the level of educational attainment we've come to expect at Grayson College, our whole college, this entire system, has got to reevaluate how we do education. Now, we don't have to be experts in higher education data points to know that community colleges in general are not in any way ready to do some of the work that we're talking about. Because it's too easy to say we require adequate funds to support our mission, even though we need those funds. But no, it's now time, more than ever, to earnestly investigate how our institutions are in fact using these precious dollars allocated to us from the state and the federal government. Thus, it forces our college to face some serious and, quite frankly, very tough questions. Where are we going to reallocate these limited resources? How can we continue to encourage and support our faculty and staff in curriculum design? How are we going to adequately support our growing adjunct population with limited resources? How do our initiatives improve the learning of students? And how do we know this to be true? And if these aren't hard enough questions to tackle, we're doing it while we're trying to currently educate the next generation of students. And we've got to do it in a manner that we ensure that we're linking our students' completion rates with the future job market. We've got to do it in a way that we're helping students take that next big step, and not only helping them through their intended programs, but making sure it's a program that has future employment potential. Now, this last point was highlighted in our work with area stakeholders, where we identified a shortage of middle-skilled workers in our region, which in turn has a dramatic impact on our region's ability to attract and retain employers. So, in another study, a local study that reported out not too long ago, that due to this work, we found that no ISD, a while back, was currently offering a manufacturing career clusters for our students. Well, that's not the case any longer. And that's due to our Pathways work at this college, as example to Mr. McAdams' work in our advanced manufacturing program. That's Pathways at work. And it's key not only to our college's future, but to our community. So the work by AACC and other agencies of higher education has in no small part impacted the direction our state has taken. Just consider our 60 by 30 Texas initiative that calls for 60% increase in students receiving some form of post-secondary credential in Texas by 2030. And I'm sure you've heard the president talk about this. But to kind of drive this home and give you some perspective on this, if you look at completion rates of Texas community colleges on average, it's about 32%. So it kind of gives you a sense of how much heavy lift we've got to do if we're going to meet that goal. You add to this ambitious but needed goal of increased completers and those who obtain a post-secondary credential with the fact we must do so while at the same time ensuring these students have marketable skills and their debt is not too burdensome. These are all mandates put on colleges. And we thought this is only a fad within higher education in Texas, as I've heard quite often. Let's just listen to our Secretary of Education, Raymond A. Paredes, who said this: I almost always, in talking about 60 by 30, begin with a simple declaration. We cannot get to the goals of 60 by 30 by doing business as usual. And if you think we're going to get additional funds anytime soon, even though I hope we have great arguments at the state level, Paredes kind of put a damper on that as well when he said this to demands for more monies. And this was only 6 months ago. No, we're just going to have to find a way to reach those goals in any circumstance because the future of the state depends on it. So this is the climate we're operating under. This is the battles that the president is fighting in Austin. So maybe it's a good idea now just to kind of give you a sense that everything we're doing and having to work through is all under the umbrella of this completion agenda that's flown out across the United States. It's dominating all policy discussions at a state and national level. And on top of this, we also have to consider the real impact of our state's move to outcome-based funding, which is now scheduled to provide 10%, right? 10% of formula appropriations to colleges depending on student performance. And as always, there's always discussions of that going up. So we have to look at our own institutional practices to see if they are a hindrance to student mobility. Just as in the case of demands we put on our faculty, we must be, as administrators and staff, asking ourselves if this process, that policy, is helping our students or simply creating another level of bureaucracy that in truth only hinders our faculty and staff in supporting our students. We have to work towards eliminating structural inequities wherever they might exist, even in our K-12 systems and even in our local communities. And as we move forward, we also must hold one another accountable on these initiatives we choose, so we're not talking about the same thing, the same problems on a consistent basis. Right? And I think a key to that is also engaging our community and educating our community on the wider successes of our students. That's a winner for us. Now, the college has laid out a lot of initiatives. I mentioned some, you've heard the president mention others, and we've laid out a multi-year plan, and hopefully you'll be able to help us with some of those ideals and those goals, either getting rid of some and keeping the others. And a good example of one of those that just happened are the college's meta majors that the president's executive council just approved. And they're listed behind me, and if you've got kids in high school, they may look familiar because they should. They're tied to the high school endorsements and House Bill 5. These meta majors are a way for the college to encapsulate all our degrees, certificates, pathways to degrees underneath these little umbrellas we're tagging as meta majors. And your instructional deans, chairs, program directors, and faculty are going to be doing a lot of work over the next few weeks to determine where do all those fit underneath these meta majors, and how does how does that work for us? And how's that going to translate to our website design? And wherever the advisors are in the room, this will dictate your life pretty soon, because everything will flow beneath the umbrella of these meta majors and trying to educate the students and our faculty and staff as to what that means. And I think in a sense that the sky's the limit in terms of how we can approach and incorporate these meta majors in our college in an effort to better streamline our students' experiences on our website, obviously, but also just their first touch, their first contact to the college. So in conclusion, I truly believe our success lies in creating strong relationships between the faculty and staff in an effort to create an inclusive college where dialogue is open and encouraged. We have to have the confidence as leaders to hear constructive criticism and not just brush it off. In response, we should at all times use language that affirms and encourages, use a team-centered approach coupled with the insistence to produce solid results that will ensure the goals set forth by this college and your board. Because it's all too simple to argue that students have a responsibility to their own success in the classroom and at this college. And this is true, but our institution bears as much, if not more, responsibility in this success. And I'm very fond of Vincent Tinto's remarks on this issue. Tinto argues that when a student enters a college, they are in fact entering into a contract with that college, which in turn leads our college to own this moral obligation to create an environment on this campus that will ensure that student's success. I believe in that. And I think my faculty and the staff in this room believe in that as well. And I think our college is well on its way to creating an atmosphere at this college that's committed to that, as evidenced in this work on structured curriculum pathways. We have to make sure we're aligning our courses in such a manner that a student's progression is based upon a series of greatest possible success scenarios. And these hopefully will build one upon another and improve the confidence of that student. And I think you'll see better retention and success rates because of it. So I think we've taken great strides in this respect, but we've got a lot of work to do. And it's going to take all of us to do it. But when you consider the stakes, our students' futures, I think this is indeed a noble and righteous cause. Because, you know, the president mentioned it, but yeah, working at a community college is a rewarding and noble endeavor. It provides life-changing opportunities, not just to you, but those students that walk across that stage and go off and make something of their lives. So I encourage all of you here today to re-examine the college's mission and purpose. Look at that strategic plan. Understand it. If you don't, ask questions. Your directors, your program, whoever your directors or supervisors are, should be sharing this with you. If they're not, demand it of them, because it's going to take all of us to get this work done. We need to refamiliarize ourselves with these issues. And by the way, that's a challenge to the established faculty as well. We have to lead. We have to be all leaders in this. It's good work to do. So thank you.